Welcome. My name is Tracy Cook, and this is the podcast series Victim to Victory. This series gives a voice to those that have overcome challenges in all forms, that dare greatly to share their real stories. Amazing humans that have seen hope and risen above those adversities to become victorious, that go on to support and inspire others to do the same. And today we are giving a voice to Melissa Mitchell. Hi, welcome, Melissa.
How are you?
I'm
Thank you
very
for having
well.
me.
You're very welcome. And let me just give you a little bit of a backstory about Melissa and I. I'm in Perth and Melissa is in Melbourne. We've been online Facebook chat buddies for over a year now, well over a year. We haven't physically met in person, but that doesn't matter because we're all social. Definitely, we're all social. And Melissa has been very inspiring to myself. She is a world of knowledge. She is always sharing her tips, her strengths, and she's very raw and real. She shows her vulnerabilities, and she has got a powerful story to share with you today. So, Melissa, thank you very much for daring greatly. I know how raw and real and authentic you are, and I think that is a wonderful characteristic trait of you. And I really know that you are going to inspire the audience today, and I really know that what the message you've got to tell is going to be impactful. So who is Melissa and where does your story start?
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for having me. And likewise to you, Tracy. I find, since we connected, you being raw and real as well has helped me immensely too. And watching you grow online is just incredible. And I think hats off to you because your situation, what you've gone through is it's inspiring so many people to want better for themselves. So thank you as well. And for me, and I want to acknowledge as well, a lot of the guests that you have on, my story isn't about domestic abuse, and it's not about me overcoming, something in my childhood or anything like that. But it's probably one of the most common struggles is that it's the struggle within yourself. And so many people go through it. So I want to credit the people that you've interviewed, and I'm certainly not playing down what I went through, but I guess that's inspiring to look at people and say, wow, if they can get through that, I can get through anything. So I guess for me, a little bit of my background, I've got two little children. I had my children later in life, and it really changed my world. And it all sort of started for me grappling with my own sort of, I guess, inner self and coming to a point where the end result was hospitalisation with a breakdown. And I guess, I'll fill you in for the middle part. So what was really, really hard for me and my battle was that I went from actually everything in my life being amazing or me, believing it was amazing, which it was, to me believing that my life wasn't amazing. And it was a huge, huge change. And people who knew me, people who were surrounded by me just could not understand someone who's strong. And, I was a flight attendant for 10 years and I lived in the Middle East and I've done so many strong things. I've had a good life. And then all of a sudden here you are, unable to dress yourself in the morning, unable to eat without vomiting because I was that anxious, and in the end, hospitalisation. So how it started for me is, and this will hopefully inspire some new mums out there, is, I hate to say it, but it all happened when I had my children, and not that I'm blaming them in any way, but I didn't realise the impact of what was coming. We'd moved from Melbourne to country New South Wales at that time, and I was a rural city person, and I went from flying the world, around the world with my job, and I had children, which I'm so blessed to have. In no way am I saying that I'm not blessed. There's people out there who can't have children, so I am very blessed. I just and I was an older mum, and I just had never really given a thought about how hard it was going to be. The hardest thing for me was I moved. I started to get a bit of anxiety, which, you know, everyone does, no big deal. But the thing was, it then snowballed. And what I'll get to in a moment is, and I've got my resources up here I want to share with you, is how I changed that to beat what was in my head. Because often in any situation, it's got to do with what's going on in here. So it doesn't really matter where you come from, what opportunities you've given in life. We can all damage ourselves by not listening or listening too much to what's going on inside. So basically, it started off with a bit of anxiety. I sort of had a girlfriend who was very sick with cancer, who ended up dying, and, you know, there was a few things that my husband wasn't there. I had my kids really close, and it got to the point with my anxiety and that I became depressed. Full-on depression, which many of your listeners would have gone through before. I'd never gone through it. You know, I'd had my down times. I had a good upbringing. You know, nothing was wrong in my life. And to find yourself, you know, it's really hard to talk about, because to find yourself in such a dark place, it's just, now when I hear people who go through depression and everything, I really commend them, because it's a horrible place to be in, isn't it, Tracy? Like, it's not a nice place to be in. The anxiety caused the depression. The anxiety was so strong for me that my body was in crisis, because when you have anxiety for so long, your body starts to shut down, and there's different levels of stress. And it might start off with a few headaches, and then it ends up basically to you shutting down and having a full, you know, loaded breakdown. And if any of your listeners have experienced that before, I'm really sorry, because it's a horrible place to be. But I want you to know that it doesn't have to be such a horrible place. Yes, it is in the beginning, but it can lead to amazing things. So what happened for me towards the end is I was so anxious and in such a low place that I was unable to function. So my husband had to tell me what to eat, had to tell me, you know, I couldn't look after my kids, so I just shut off emotionally. And I think that's what gave me the anxiety in the beginning was, well, if I don't cope with being a mum, and if I don't cope, you know, with simple tasks of being able to cook dinner without stressing out, and my husband wasn't there a lot. It wasn't his fault. His work was very busy. So, and I had no family near me. And it was all of a sudden, things like cooking dinner were stressful for me. I couldn't handle it. And so that's how it kind of snowballed, because it was the thoughts in my head going around and around and around, and, you know, what I now know as maladaptive behavior, and all your cognition is wrong. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting by any means that anyone who has depression, it is their fault. I am not suggesting that at all. But I do want to say, and I have studied neuro-linguistic programming, which is your thought processes and how they affect you, and also a qualified psychotherapist as well. That, not that I do that as a job, but those skills helped me to realise that depression and anxiety is an illness like anything else. And if you go to the doctor and you've got heart disease or you've got diabetes, what do? They give you, you know, they tell you what to do. They might give you medication, they may not. They might tell you to go onto this program, they may not. But the thing is with depression and anxiety, a lot of people who go through it don't actually realise that aspect, that it needs to be treated like an illness, like anything else. Therefore, you need to look at your thoughts, okay? And that's a really hard pill for people with depression to swallow, or anxiety, saying, but I can't do that but ultimately you can, because it's how your brain works, okay? And if people can get over, sorry, I'm not saying get over as in getting over it. I mean, if people can come through the other side of the biggest travesty and adversity in their life and come out on top, then we can do it too in depression and anxiety. So although people couldn't understand what I was going through, because I didn't have a bad life. I wasn't suffering domestic violence. I wasn't coming from alcoholic parents. I had none of that. And even my husband would say, has something happened? Has something happened? I couldn't explain it, Tracy. Like, I couldn't explain it. It was, everything changed. And so the last straw was I had a panic attack that lasted 36 hours. 36 hours. It was exhausting. I didn't sleep. Yeah. I didn't sleep for 36 hours. I was so wired that my body was shaking. Everything I ate, I vomited because I couldn't stomach anything. I was incredibly skinny. This all happened for me over a very quick period. It happened really quick and really hard. So I fell really, like within 3 or 4 months, that was it. I was in hospital. It was very, very, it was a quick, sharp decline. But from this process, and after ending up in hospital, dosed me up on Valium, which I have to say, the first day they gave me the Valium, didn't even touch the sides, Tracy. That's how wired I was, how stressed, and I couldn't calm down, and I had all these racing thoughts, and I was ready to just walk away from my family because I was numb. I didn't feel bad for them, but I didn't feel any love. I felt nothing. And I want people to know, no, I haven't walked in someone else's shoes and I don't know what it's like to go through maybe their situation, but I do understand how powerful your mind is. And your mind has the power to do so much more than what we realize. So I want people to understand that whatever your situation is, you have greatness within you. Whatever capacity you want to get to, you can get there. So what I started to do is, my little resources here. I went to a psychologist. I went to a doctor. That's what suited me. You need to do what's best for you and the resources that you've got. So I'm not giving medical advice there in any way. And I started to see a psychologist, and I really resonated with him because he was very much like me. Black and white, tell me straight. Tell me what I need to do without the fluff, without everything else, and I'll go and do it because I don't want to feel like this because it's freaking horrible. And if this keeps going on, I would not have kept my life.
And it's great that you've recognised that as well, and you've gone and sought help. It's kind of, this isn't me. I don't know what's happening. I need to fix this somehow. And lucky you kind of had that inner strength to go and get actual professional help. I had my first panic attack 3 days ago, my first panic attack ever.
Kidding?
So I completely relate to what you're saying about bodies shutting down. And I actually physically thought that I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
I actually thought I was having a heart attack, and I was reaching for my phone to bring an ambulance. So I completely relate to people when they say anxiety, depression, and heart and panic attacks. Before, I'm kind of like, I know it's real, but I've never been through it, so I don't fully understand, but I know it's real. Until you go through it, like you were saying, you don't have a full comprehension of what that can do. And very much along your lines, you know, studying NLP and things like that, you have kind of a little bit of you have a vast understanding to know and it's really good that you've kind of seen that and gone to get professional help
and used it for and you can use it for its strength. And I guess, you know, let's use your panic attack as an example. You can either go two ways from here, Tracy, or your listeners, if perhaps they're just starting with panic attacks. Anxiety and fear is a learnt behavior, okay? And when your panic attacks get worse, let's say you have another one, what helped me, and it may help you and your listeners, what you're actually fearing at that time, because anxiety is about fear. You're fearing something. So if you think about, and I won't ask you on here what it was, but if you think about what triggered that for you, it would have been something that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. So your fear.
My trigger, I'm totally transparent with it. It's with the COVID and being an essential service at my full-time position and still having to go into work, working remotely at home, and the fear I recognise is the trigger of actually going back into work.
Yes. Yep. I'm hearing you, because I the other day, I mean, I'm really good with anxiety now. I recognize it and everything, and I don't have those moments. I wouldn't even say I have panic attacks anymore, but I went working from home as well. My husband's working from home and he's been doing the shopping. The first time I went out, I freaked out. I didn't have a panic attack, but I came home and I went, I don't feel good about that. So what I want to give some advice to people, and if you're listening to this and COVID-19 is gone, you can apply this to any situation, is fear is a learnt behavior. So what happens, Tracy, you went into your work and now you associate that. So next time you go in, you have to be aware that that was the reaction you got. And if you get that reaction again, it's okay. You're not dying. It's okay. What happens in that part of your brain where you store that information is it becomes stronger. And it's the same area of the brain that we do fight or flight, and short-term memory and a few other sort of things. So you find that when you're anxious, your short-term memory is crap. You find that your OCD goes up because you start to control things. And when you start to understand what anxiety really is, it's actually not about controlling it. It's about letting the fear go. But understanding it, I feel, okay, that's okay. I'm not having a heart attack. I feel uncomfortable, but that's okay. Yeah. And so we are all born with, you know, a small percentage of fear for survival. Okay, maybe heights, maybe spiders, maybe snakes. That's an innate fear that we're born with. What we're not born with is going into an office and being scared of COVID-19 or cooking dinner for your kids, which was my trigger. But what happens is we give it strength, we give it power. Because if you don't understand how your brain works, the next time you go into that situation, you're actually fearing the fear of how you felt, if that makes sense. 100%. And you start to panic. I don't want to have a panic attack. So anxiety is all about something that hasn't happened yet. Depression is something about in the past. So you get depressed about my situation, like I got depressed about my situation. So although it's a present situation, I'm depressed about where I've got to, if that makes sense. Anxiety is about the future. And when you understand that, it really does help. A couple of the resources the psychologist gave me, and it may not be your thing, I know it's your thing, Trace, but your listeners, it may not be their thing, but a couple of the resources I found that really helped me was a book, What Doesn't Kill Us, The New Psychology of Post-Traumatic Growth. It's really good. The psychologist actually gave this to me because he's like, I've actually got 2 copies, take it. So that's by Professor Stephen Joseph. I know it's back to front if you are watching this on video, but if you can read that, Professor Stephen Joseph, that was a really good one, and how to grow from post-traumatic trauma.
We might pop some links too, Melissa. We might pop some links for those resources because they'll really help people.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, we can do that for sure. So I'll chat to you afterwards and I can get those to you. That's no worries. Change your thinking with CBT. CBT is cognitive behavior therapy. It's about thinking about that thought. Okay, so I'll just use yours if you don't mind as an example.
Fine.
The thought was when you went into the office, and I was the same when I went into the supermarket. Oh my gosh, this is real. What happens if I do get this? What if I give it to my elderly parents? What if I give it to my children? What's going to happen? So it's about taking that and understanding that cognitive being thoughts, your thought process, and changing it. Okay, yeah, I'm in this environment. I'm in the supermarket. I'm in my workplace that stresses, me out with the COVID-19 virus, or whatever situation, if your boss is angry or whatever it is. What resources have I got to, right now that I can draw upon? Well, I know that it hasn't happened yet. So I'm going to draw upon that. I'm safe. I've taken every precaution if I can, So that's another good one. Overcome stress, combat anxiety, improve your life. Dr. Sarah Edelman, I think you say it. Again, we can pop it up. And the other one, the 10 best ever anxiety management techniques, Margaret Werenberg. That was a great one as well.
This one is so funny. I actually just looked this up on Amazon.
You're serious?
I'm serious. I've only just, you can actually get this on Amazon.
Gosh.
Yeah.
There's always a reason for it, Tracy. Isn't there?
There's
always a reason for it, why people come, you know, at that particular time that, you know, I happen to be talking to you and you're like, wow, I need this at the moment. I really believe in that. And I find, and we're very similar, Tracy, I find that by understanding the process of what's happening in my body downplays the anxiety so that you can cope with it. It's an uncomfortable feeling. I feel like crap right now. I'm scared. But what's happening in my body is my fight or flight or freeze response is happening. So my body thinks it's about to go into battle. So I want people to think about their thought processes and giving up that control. You know, a lot of people with anxiety I've just got to control it. No, you don't have to control it. When you don't control, it's because you are trying to control something that you do get anxiety. And when we understand that, it makes life so much different and so much easier to cope with, because we're all going to have crap days. We're all going to have bad moments. We're going to have those down times. It's okay to have a down time. Grab some chocolate, and I'm pointing there because I've got it next to me. Grab some chocolate, you know, or, you know, whatever in that moment that you need, and it's okay. It's okay. So from the greatest adversity can become, you know, the greatest things. And you only have to look at people in history that overcome that. You know, Helen Keller, who was deaf and blind. And she went on to speak how many different languages, and she was obviously open to learning. You know, when they first taught her the symbols in her hands and put things on and gave her, you know, her brain was open to learning. So another thing is, and this a little bit off the subject, when I was a flight attendant, I got into training. So I would then train the emergency procedures. And I remember talking to one of the pilots, and he said something really powerful to me, and you can adapt this to any life, part of life. He was saying that it's not very often in a flight attendant's life that you will have an emergency. Like, it is actually quite rare. You just hear about it on the news all the time, right? Because when it happens, it's big. But when you look at the scope of thing, if you are involved in something, and touch wood, I hope people aren't, but he goes, enjoy the moment. And he goes, I know that sounds bad, but he goes, enjoy the moment, because it will make you grow stronger. It will make you better at your job. It will make you, like, we had plenty of medical emergencies on board and people die and things like that. And in that moment, it's horrible, or it's horrible to see the things that you see. I've had some small things on board, but no major emergencies. But I remember thinking, you've got to take in that moment and use it and twist it to help you grow further. So I guess with all of this, and one thing I want your listeners to know is that we all have greatness in us. It doesn't matter whether you're a 7th-generation criminal, you know, like you're born into a family. You know, it might be harder for you or more challenging, but we all have it. We're all born with that greatness. And it's what you want to do with it, and what you have the dare to do, because it is scary to do. It's even scary confronting anxiety. But if you do it, your life will massively change. And it's about not being the victim within yourself. And going back to what I said before, going to the doctor will say, okay, this is what you need to do. Good exercise, good health, meditate, whatever it is. It's no different to diabetes or heart disease. But the problem is, when people do get anxiety and depression, they do, and I know this is going to hit a raw nerve with people, and I've seen it myself, but I can't help that because this happened to me. But I can't help feeling this way because this happened to me. You don't have a choice. You either live depressed in that moment, or you try to use it to grow. And when you use it to grow, the best will come out of it.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people do use their circumstances, and they actually adapt to being a victim. They can't
Yeah.
see that on the other
100%.
side of that, like your message is saying, that on the other side of that, if they just got past that, oh, but everything always happens to me. Oh, you don't know my
Yep.
story. Oh, you know, you don't know the life I've had. It doesn't matter. It's all about
It doesn't matter. 100%. It doesn't
really
matter.
doesn't. And
And like I said, I don't want people to then go, oh yeah, but it's okay for you, Melissa or Tracy, or but the thing is, I'm saying I had a good life, but people still don't know what I've gone through in my life, and that's exactly what you're saying. I'm telling people I had a great life. I've had some terrible things happen, that have been shocking, but it's not that I don't tell people, it's just not who I am. So you're so right, Tracy, when you say that. It's not who you are.
So when you went to the psychologist and you've got 2 young kids at home, how did you bounce back from that?
It was really hard. I had to step into fear. I was really fearful of getting better, because when you're like that, you're like, I want to get better. I don't know how. And it's scary. And I'm looking back now going, how was that scary? But it was, for whatever reason. I think it's because you're facing your vulnerabilities. So how I bounce back is I made a decision that however I felt didn't define me, and that I had to start to be okay with how I felt, but I wouldn't let myself wallow on it. So I go, right. The thing is too, bouncing back, it's really important just to get back out there and do things. Like, it's really important, like, you and I know that you know this, Tracy, but like, you wouldn't not go to your work now just because you had that panic attack there. You know that that's what you have to do. And when people talk about facing their fears, anxiety is a fear, that's what you have to do. And that's why they get people to jump off a cliff, because it empowers them when they're fearful of something. You watch TV shows, oh my gosh, I can't do it, or I've got to touch a spider. That's why they do it, because
that's why Tony Robbins does the fire walk, doesn't he?
Yes, exactly right. Because 100%. And so that's how I bounced back. I made a decision. I'm not saying it was easy. It was very vulnerable. It's about not trying to be strong. It's actually succumbing to your fear and going, I'm actually really shit scared right now. And I'm really depressed, and I don't want to live, and I don't want to be here. But you know what? I've got to get up and I've got to get dressed. I have to get up and try and eat without vomiting, or I'm going to starve to death. I have to get up. And it's not about putting a brave face on. It's actually just about getting up and doing it, and being okay when you have a crap day. Because a lot of people who do suffer anxiety and depression, they live off that, and I'm not saying it's not easy for them. So please, anyone who's listening to this, know that, I do understand, but it's not about getting up and saying, oh, I'm just going to sleep in bed all day because, I went through this and I've got bad depression. No, you can't, because you won't live your life. If you look at so many people out there that suffer from anxiety and depression in the public eye, and you would never know. And when you're vulnerable, and it goes back to how you overcome that, Tracy, when you're vulnerable and you just put yourself out there and go, hey, I had a breakdown, ended up on the ground, couldn't walk, wanted to end my life, wanted to do this, wanted to do that. It actually takes the pressure off yourself. Mm-hmm. It takes the pressure off yourself, and you can then start to move forward, because you go, who cares? It happened. Big deal. What am I going to learn from that? I learned who was important in my life. I learned that people were there to support me, and that it didn't matter how I felt inside. And, that's how I overcame it. I started doing things out of my comfort zone. It wasn't easy, but I had to do it, because you've got the choice. You sit at home for 20 years depressed, or you get out and you enjoy life and have some shit days.
That's right. Well, there was a nice saying that we've survived 100% of the worst days.
Yes. That's one of my favourite sayings. Absolutely. You've survived 100% of your worst days. It's a good track record. And when you do strip it back like that, Tracy, and you say, I didn't die. I felt shit. I felt like I was going to die. But I didn't die. I survived. So you've survived 100%. And that's a great track record. So yeah, I want people to know that you do actually have it in you, even when you don't, you do. One tip I can give people as well, is I couldn't smile, and the psychologist said, you have to smile because it releases all those feel-good hormones. I couldn't. So visualizing, I actually visualized myself smiling and being happy because I didn't believe it inside. And when I started visualizing and sitting there and visualizing, and I would do meditation as well, my doctor recommended it, and I would visualize myself happy. So you can't not smile. When you picture it inside and you think of a really happy time and you actually physically picture yourself smile, you can't not smile. And that started getting those good hormones back, feel good hormones and chemicals, and your brain resettling and everything. I did go on medication as well. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but it's what I needed. That's how I did it. I started to picture myself smile and laughing at jokes because I couldn't laugh. And before I knew it, I could actually smile again. And so visualizing is really important too.
So you have come a long way on your journey. You've gone through all of that, and the medication and the meditation and your mindset, and now you're where are you now? Where are you now? How long has
so I feel great. Like I feel I'm very aware that what happened, that I could create that again. Like so I'm in a really good place. I'm okay if I have a crap day. I do get a little bit of anxiety, but it's not, I wouldn't even say it's a panic attack. And I just say, I know that feeling. It's an uncomfortable feeling. It'll go. It's not going to kill me. And I really work on my mindset. I still do meditation because I find it really empowering. Visualizing. So visualizing something that I want and a good outcome. Recognizing a maladaptive behavior. Well, that's not serving me, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that. Like, nobody likes me, for example, is a maladaptive behavior. Well, that's not true. If you say that, or no one wants to come and see me, well, that's not true. So it's breaking it down. So I will say, for people who do have anxiety and depression and those sorts of issues, it will be something that you have to work on every single day. But it's not hard in the end. In the end, it becomes a habit.
And it's watching our language and how we speak, because we get
Correct.
to keep what we speak. So if we're
100%,
those words like, nobody loves me, this always happens to me, or nobody would remember my birthday, if we're going to keep saying that, and the universe pick up on that, we get to keep what we speak. So
I love that saying. I'm going to use that.
Nice things to ourselves, and the universe will give us more of that. And if we say it
100%.
in a mirror, we will make ourselves smile as well. And all those
100%
hormones will just naturally happen. And it's practicing self-love. Self-love and self-care, especially for busy working mums. With all the pressure that's going on with the world always, regardless of the situation we're in at the moment,
correct.
Self-love and self-care is not selfish.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And I'm going to use your saying, we get to keep what we speak, because I completely believe that. Someone who perhaps keeps attracting the wrong boyfriend or the wrong girlfriend, the wrong type of person, why? You have to ask yourself why. Is it because you're telling yourself you're unlovable? I'm never going to find the right guy. Tell yourself you bloody are, and you will. I love that. I'm going to use that.
I completely believe in, like yourself, Melissa, visualization. And I think that's something that, we could teach our kids more of that as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Visualize, 100%. As parents, teaching our kids visualization. It is a real thing. Visualize yourself running across that line, being the winner at the next sports race. Picture yourself with a certificate to bring home with an A on it. Picture yourself, standing up at the next assembly singing a song. Whatever it may be for your child, just getting them to be in the moment and mindful.
I love it.
And visualizing their success at something. Now, it doesn't have to be materialistic. It doesn't necessarily have to be winning something.
Yes, correct.
Visualization. Picture yourself walking into school and being able to put your bag where you want to put your bag on the first run because I've dropped you off 10 minutes early. to be able to do that.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
just little things make such a huge impact, not only for adults, but for children. So I'm so grateful
I
you
agree.
actually brought that up about visualization, because I think
Thank
that's
you.
just an element that's missing from our lives.
It is. And when you picture your life and the wrong way, that's like you said, that's what you'll get. Because if your body, and I always tell people, if your body has the ability to salivate when you think of a lemon or eating a grapefruit, and I'm doing it now, then that shows how powerful your mind is. If you can have a thought and your body has a conditioned response to that, you know, because you know that when you see that or when you hear that bell ring, like Pavlov's, I can never say his name, the dogs that where Ivan Pavlov was, I can never say his surname, Pavlov was training the dogs to that when the bell went, the food would come, and this is a real thing. And that's how he discovered, well, hang on, they're salivating like as soon as the bell rings, but the food's not there. So what is happening in the body and the mind to actually create something? So people say they don't believe in visualizing. Try visualizing and eating a lemon. What happens to your body? No different.
Exactly. That's very
Yeah.
powerful. So
100%.
you're how old are your children now?
9 and 11. 9 and 11. And one of them I do catch being quite pessimistic sometimes. I have to say, hang on a minute, those broad statements of, oh, well, I hate school, or, you know, I'm bad at this. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me, you know, what led you to that? What makes you bad at maths when actually he's in the top group at school? So where did you get this from? Rather than saying you're not, it was like, okay, so tell me what brought that on. Oh, well, when I try and do my homework, I don't understand it. Okay, so does that mean you're bad at all maths, or just maybe you don't understand that one question? So I think it's so powerful for kids too. I have to apologise. We've got a massive storm here. I don't know if you can hear that.
Can't hear anything.
Oh my gosh. And I'm in my office and there's a skylight and it's just banging on there. I'm like, that's why I don't know if you saw before. I was turning up the volume. So I thought, oh God, I hope you can't hear all that. So I apologise.
Can't hear any of it. Can't hear any of it. So what message? I'm so glad that you've kind of come through the other side. You've battled those, I call them the inner critic. You've battled that inner critic, and you've got professional help. You've overcome the medication. Your kids are growing. You and your husband are working from home at the moment.
Yep.
And you're happy, you're healthy, you're still, you know, you have, you know, some shit days and you have some good days, like all of us. So what kind of message would you like to leave everybody on today, Melissa?
My main message is going back to that greatness within you. You actually have within you everything that you need to reach that goal that you want, whether your goal is to lose 10 kilos or to create an online business. It doesn't matter what it is. You actually have it within you. It's whether you want to tap into it or not. So I want people to explore their feelings, explore what's going on. You actually do have the potential. So don't tell yourself otherwise, because that's when, as you said, Tracy, you get to keep your words, because it's about self-belief. Believe that you've got it within you, because I'm telling your viewers they do have it within you, and you can never fail. You can never fail.
I think that's so powerful. I so appreciate you. You're very inspiring. You're very strong. You're very real. People are going to get such an inspiration. And I think that a lot of light bulbs are going to go off with all of the nuggets that you've actually shared. We'll drop those links for those resources, because I think they'll be as well. And thank you very much once again. And for being brave, sharing your story. You're very much appreciated. And you can find our podcast on YouTube and the Facebook group Victim to Victory podcast series. And if you got value from today, please subscribe, like and comment. The link to find Melissa and connect with her will be posted as well. And I'd like to leave you all with a message to step into your power and let your voice roar. Thank you, Melissa.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.